So let's start with where I was before this shift came, because this doesn't come from theory. This comes from actual frustration that I had in my business. So I talked about how I was like, oh, I want to really build up my business, double my income. I'm ready for this challenge. I'm really good at what I do. And I knew I was good at what I do. I knew I can cross you to the finish line. So if this is your goal to buy a house, you were going to get to the finish line. But I thought in order to get more people into my ecosystem, because I believe so much into what I was doing, and I know you guys do too, you believe in what you're doing is helping people. And I believe that too. And I was like, man, how can I get all these people to understand? Okay, I'll lower my pricing so I can get more people in the door. So the pricing's not an objection. Reality is, pricing's only an objection if they don't trust you're going to get them to the goal, if you didn't lead with that conversation. Now, for me, I knew I would get them to the goal. That was easy for me. I knew 100%. Matter of fact, if you didn't pay for my services, I kind of felt bad, like, man, what did I do wrong? Because this person needs me so bad. And they're going to go in the wrong direction or with the wrong person who's really not going to get them to their goal, right? But it wasn't price objection. It was my conversation that did not engage them to understand what I was going to provide to them. Okay. Or what we were going to do together, the journey that we were going to create, the transformation we were going to create together. Okay. So when you change your conversation from what you do to what they want, everything else aligns: the energy, the trust, and ultimately the conversion of that person into a client. So, a couple things I want to go over with you. Early in my business, and I think this is for a lot of us, our conversations, our consultations with clients are filled with a lot of logic, right? Because we can say, okay, I'm looking at your credit report. We need to get another credit card so we can, help balance out this high utilization. We might need to then get a personal loan to pay off the credit card. So we blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of logic in it, and there's a lot of information, which is important for us to know, right? How we're going to accomplish the goal that they have. But when we are talking logic to the prospective client, that's not engaging them. Okay. They understand there's a process and there's a logic to what we're going to do, but they don't need us to tell them all the things. Okay. So, I would say things like, we'll challenge the errors, we'll remove negatives, we're going to rebuild trade lines. You've heard it, you've said it, right? You said it. But the person on the other side is thinking, okay, will I get my house? And that's where we really need to be concentrating our conversation on, is that they're going to get the house, and help them not only see that you're the person that's going to help them get from here to here. And we're going to talk more about how you can do that through the gain. Right now, I just want you to focus on understanding the conversation, right? Not only are we going to be able to get them from here to the end goal, but the other thing is that we have to understand that they might not really think that they can do it. Okay. So consider this. And I said this last week, and I think it's due to be said again. When you have a really big goal, and you just think about yourself for a second, you have a really big goal that you're trying to accomplish. And I like to use the weight loss thing because it's a lot of people's goals, right? And we go from diet to diet to diet and nothing works. And then someone presents something and they're selling us a product or service for weight loss. And we're like, okay. And they built some trust that they're going to be able to help us cross the line. And, they're going to implement these things, and we're going to eat this way, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And they had the full plan for us. They've laid it all out for us. The next thing that goes on in our head is, can I actually do it? Okay. So it's not just that they trust you can help them get there and that you have the plan and the solution, the journey, but they also have to build trust within themselves that they can do it. And I love how Alex Hermosi puts this. It's like, as you are building out your system for your consumers, writing down all the problems they might face. Like if we're talking about weight loss, like if they have to eat certain foods, like, I don't want to have to cook. I don't know that I can cook this food. I don't know if I can shop for this food. I don't know. And so if you think about that in your space, they might be thinking, I don't know if I can come up with the money to pay down the credit card if they want me to pay it on the credit card. And, I don't know anybody who ever bought a home. So I know I want this goal really bad. I want it for my kids, but man, it just seems so far out of reach. We have to pull that goal in closer and get them to understand that it is something achievable, right? And guys, please don't do this and say, oh, we can get you there in 3 months, because you may have just blocked their entire ability to believe that they can do it. 3 months is a short period of time, right? and you're listing out all these things that they need to do and that you're going to help them do. And oh, I got the plan. I'm going to do all this. We're going to do all this. And they're like, and they're like, how long is it going to take? I'm really excited. Oh, 3 months. You may have just devastated them when you said 3 months. I know you think they want to hear 3 months and they think they want to hear 3 months, right? Because we all want something instantaneous. But the second thought is 3 months. That's not a lot of time. Am I going to be able to pay that down? Am I going to do this? So again, really consider having a conversation with your client about the end goal, what challenges that there are, the gap. That's here I am. Here's where I want to go. What's the gap? And understanding the gap so that you guys can come up with a process that works for them. Okay. And so consider that as you're thinking about that, because it's not all about whether or not they trust that you're going to take them there. They also have to trust themselves. Okay. And sometimes the why is not quite big enough. If I say my goal is to buy a house, or some of your consumer says my goal is to buy a house, and you go, okay, your goal is to buy a house, and you start going in through how you're going to help them get a house, the house might not be the big why. The big why might be that the kids are in an unsafe environment. And so you have to dig for the big why, because the big why is actually going to be the thing that helps convert them into going to your process, but it also helps keep them engaged throughout the process. So if you start seeing disengagement from the consumer, you have to help them understand their why again. Okay. But it has to be the big why. And that's where diving into this conversation that I'm talking about is so very important. Okay. So, give you an example. One day a woman asked me, as I'm telling her all the great things that I'm going to do, right? She says, I don't care about my credit. You're like, okay, wait a minute. We're having a conversation about improving your credit. And you just told me I don't care about my credit. And so it took me aback. And she further, okay, tell me more. Okay, I just want to stop being embarrassed at the bank. So what that moment was for me is I didn't stop to listen and lead the conversation with the goal. I was leading with the services and what I was going to do for the small amount of money that I was going to charge and how I'm the best. Right. And so because of that, she's sitting back and she's like, I don't even care about my credit. I could care less about my credit, but I really hate being embarrassed at the bank. Remember I told you the status? So oftentimes we buy for a goal, but that goal is usually linked to a status. So her status was being embarrassed at the bank, right? So she didn't really care about her credit personally, but she cared about the status that it gave her at the bank, right? So keep that in mind. So that was my aha moment, that I was solving the wrong problem in my conversation. Okay. So I stopped opening calls with what I do, and I started with what they want. Again, I stopped answering calls with what I do, and I started focusing on what they want. And that's when the connection happens. That's when conversions explode. Okay. That's when people want to work with us. They have an emphatic yes to work with us. Okay. So think about this. I'm going to tell you two different lines and you can kind of feel it for yourself. Okay. So first one, a dispute conversation sounds like a transaction, right? So if I say, yeah, you can work with me. We're going to remove the errors on your credit report. We're going to do some rebuilding. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. This is my charge. That sounds like a transaction, right? And that's not what consumers want. We don't want to be sold to. So a goal conversation sounds like a partnership. Hey, Jane, I am so excited for you. Your goal was to buy a house. And I know that the big reason you want to buy this house is because you want your kids to be in a safe place. And I'm excited to help you with that journey to get there. I've been there. I've done that. And I have the perfect journey plan for you to help you get there as fast as possible. Take all the road bumps out that I had to endure when I went through the process. Make it as smooth and easy as possible. I'll always be here for you and hold your hand. I'll be your accountability partner, but I'm going to put the plan together and we're going to work on it together. That sounds like a partnership. It also keeps me from looking like the hero, because I don't want to be the hero. Hero puts too much pressure on me. Again, remember from last week, right? I want to be the guide, not the hero. Does that make sense? Okay. So, key takeaway, you don't sell what you fix, you sell what they feel. Don't sell what you fix, you sell what they feel. So think about that, the emotional connection. So my action tip for you today is start your next consultation with something like this. Tell me your end goal. What's one thing improving your credit would allow you to do today? Tell me about your goal. Hey, so client comes in, hey, some XYZ referred you to me. I'm looking to get my credit score improved, and I think I need to get to like a 680. I think that's what my letter told me to do. Oh, awesome. Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with me. What's your goal? Oh, my goal is buy a house. Okay. What's the reason you want to buy a house? And continue to dive into that with this ability to have this open conversation with them, to dive into their big why. And that's going to help you understand what they need in your journey, right? And to make sure you're the right person for them. Please be the right person before you have them swipe their credit card. Okay. All right. So, next part I want to go through is my gain framework, because the conversation is about the goal. But what I learned really fast is, once I understood that part, that I need to transition my conversation from here's the things I do to here's what you want. Once I understood that, I needed a way to structure it, right? So how often do we think, okay, I need to do this way, but we need a framework, if you will. We need to know how we're going to do what we're going to do, so that's a repeatable process and system. But also, if you're the only salesperson today, hopefully tomorrow you're not. And how do you give this to your team? Is this is how we do our sales calls, or this is how we do our consultations. I don't even like to call it sales. So I needed, for me personally, I needed to structure those conversations so every team member could do it instantly, very easily. And that's when I created the GAIN framework, which I did speak about at the Smart Credit Conference. So if you want to see that full speech, that is on YouTube. Feel free to look at that.